The blistering midday sun scorched the bustling city streets, where the relentless pulse of urban life drowned out the quiet cries of the forgotten. Towering skyscrapers cast long, jagged shadows over cracked sidewalks, and amid the chaos of honking horns and hurried footsteps, most folks averted their eyes from the harsh realities lurking in the corners. But on one fateful corner, where the world seemed to blur into indifference, a fragile boy no older than 9 huddled against a weathered brick wall. His ribs jutted sharply against his paper-thin skin, his eyes sunken like shadowed wells of despair, and his tiny hands trembled as they clutched an empty paper cup, begging for mercy from a world that offered none. Passers-by streamed by, businessmen with sleek briefcases, shoppers laden with overflowing grocery bags, tourists snapping selfies, some casting fleeting glances of pity, but none mustering the guts to pause. To them, he was a ghost, another lost soul swallowed by the city's cruel underbelly, abandoned by fate and forgotten by humanity. Yet, in that sea of apathy, one woman's gaze locked onto him, igniting a spark that would rewrite not just his shattered destiny, but ours in ways neither could foresee. Hey there, friends, before we dive deeper into this heart-stirring tale of redemption and unbreakable bonds, if you're someone who thrives on stories that ignite hope, celebrate the raw power of kindness, and remind us that even in the darkest nights, humanity's light can shine through, pause right here. Hit that like button if this resonates, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, spread the word by sharing with your circle, and don't forget to subscribe to Midnight Tales. Together, we're building a community where tales like this keep the flames of inspiration alive, proving that one act can echo eternally in a world starving for compassion. Her name was Margaret Hale, a resilient woman in her late 40s whose life had been a relentless storm of trials far outweighing any fleeting comforts. Widowed years ago when her husband succumbed to a sudden illness, she was left to navigate the treacherous waters of single parenthood, raising her 2 young children in a cramped apartment that echoed with the ghosts of better days. She juggled 2 grueling jobs, one as a waitress in a dingy diner, the other as a night shift cleaner in an office building, barely scraping by, often staring at a near-empty fridge and wondering how she'd stretch her paycheck to cover rent and bills. Sleepless nights blurred into exhausting days, yet through it all, Margaret's heart remained a fortress of empathy, unscarred by bitterness. She knew the bone-deep ache of isolation, the crushing weight of having no safety net, no one to lean on when the world turned its back. So, when her weary eyes fell upon that boy on the corner, his head bowed in defeat, as if he'd surrendered to the universe's indifference, she felt an unbreakable pull. She couldn't just walk away. Her soul wouldn't allow it. With a gentle crouch, Margaret lowered herself to his level, her knees protesting against the hard pavement. Up close, the boy's plight hit her like a tidal wave, cracked lips parched from dehydration, a face streaked with grime and tears long dried, clothes ragged and threadbare, shoes so worn they barely clung to his blistered feet. His frail body shivered with each labored breath, a silent battle against hunger and cold. In a voice barely above a whisper, he shared his name, Elias, and the fragments of his shattered story. He hadn't tasted a proper meal in days, surviving on dumpster scraps and the occasional handout. His mother had vanished months earlier, swallowed by the city's shadows, perhaps chasing dreams or fleeing nightmares of her own. His father, ensnared by the vicious grip of addiction, had drifted away long before, leaving Elias to fend for himself in the unforgiving alleys, dodging dangers that no child should face. To the indifferent masses, he was just another statistic, a homeless kid doomed to vanish into obscurity. But Margaret saw beyond the dirt and despair. She saw a spark of potential, a life worth saving. In that pivotal moment, she extended her hand, warm and steady, and led him away from the cold corner that had become his prison. The days that unfolded were a whirlwind of challenges, testing Margaret's resolve like never before. Integrating Elias into her modest home meant stretching her already meager resources to their breaking point, another mouth to feed, extra laundry piling up, and the constant hum of worry about how to make ends meet. Whispers slithered through the neighborhood like venomous snakes, nosy neighbors clucked their tongues, questioning why she'd burden herself with a stranger's child when her own plate was overflowing. "He's not even family," they'd mutter, their judgments laced with ignorance. But Margaret tuned out the noise, her focus laser-sharp on the boy who now shared her space. She rummaged through old boxes to find her son's outgrown clothes, mending tears with careful stitches. In the evenings, she'd whip up simple yet nourishing meals, steaming bowls of soup, fresh bread slathered with butter, watching with quiet joy as color returned to Elias's cheeks. On stormy nights, when nightmares clawed at his sleep, jolting him awake with sobs, she'd cradle him close, whispering soothing words until peace reclaimed him. Bit by bit, the boy who had arrived as a silent shell began to blossom. Elias discovered a passion for stories, his eyes lighting up like stars when Margaret brought home tattered books from the local thrift store, adventures of far-off lands, tales of heroes overcoming odds. She'd sit with him under the dim lamp, encouraging him to sound out words, fostering a curiosity that burned brighter with each page turned. Enrolling him in school was no small feat. He lagged behind at first, intimidated by the structured world of classrooms and peers. But his mind was a sponge, absorbing knowledge with an unquenchable thirst. Teachers soon raved about his sharp intellect, his questions probing deeper than most kids his age. As years rolled on, life didn't magically ease, bills still loomed like dark clouds, and Margaret's jobs demanded more than she had to give, but Elias thrived under her wing. He pitched in wherever he could, hauling grocery bags up the creaky stairs or scrubbing the apartment until it gleamed, his gratitude shining through in every small act. The transformation was profound. Scholarships trickled in, recognizing his brilliance and perseverance, unlocking doors that had once seemed bolted shut. Margaret's chest swelled with unbreakable pride the day Elias received his acceptance letter to a top-tier university, a beacon of opportunity in their modest world. As he packed his bags, she pulled him into a fierce embrace, tears carving paths down her weathered cheeks. "Go out there and build something extraordinary, Elias," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "Not for fame or fortune, but for the resilient boy you were and the incredible man you're becoming." College hurled him into a maelstrom of challenges, endless all-nighters fueled by cheap coffee, grueling exams that tested his limits, and waves of self-doubt that threatened to pull him under. Yet, Elias wielded Margaret's unwavering belief like an invincible shield, pushing through the storms. He dove headfirst into technology and business, spending countless hours in humming computer labs and hushed libraries, tinkering with ideas that skeptics labeled as pipe dreams. Failures came crashing down like thunderbolts, startups that fizzled, investments that evaporated, prototypes that shattered in frustrating defeat. Each setback stung, but in those low moments, Elias replayed the memory of the woman who had rescued him from nothingness, her kindness a lifeline that refused to let him drown in despair. By his late 20s, his persistence paid off spectacularly. He founded a groundbreaking company that fused cutting-edge innovation with heartfelt purpose, developing sustainable tech solutions that tackled pressing global issues, like clean energy for underserved communities and smart devices aiding the vulnerable. Investors, initially wary, soon clamored to back his vision, and his empire began to soar. Headlines blared his name, TED-style talks drew roaring crowds, and his net worth skyrocketed into the billions. But amid the glitz of boardrooms and private jets, one anchor held firm, the debt of gratitude to the woman who had seen his worth when no one else did. Then came the day that would close the circle, a moment etched in destiny's grand design. A fleet of sleek black limousines glided down the familiar, weathered city street, their polished exteriors reflecting the curious stares of onlookers. The air crackled with anticipation as pedestrians halted mid-stride, whispering excitedly. From the lead car emerged Elias, now in his early 30s, exuding confidence in an impeccably tailored suit, his presence commanding respect. Flashes from cameras erupted like fireworks, murmurs rippled through the crowd as recognition dawned. This was the billionaire mogul whose story had captivated the world. But Elias ignored the spectacle, his mission was personal, profound. Margaret, now in her twilight years, her once vibrant hair threaded with silver, Her frame more delicate from life's relentless toll, still radiated an unyielding spirit. She had aged gracefully, her smile a beacon of warmth amid the apartment's fading walls. As the entourage approached, confusion flickered across her face, until Elias knelt before her, his head bowed in reverence, tears glistening in his eyes. In that instant, recognition flooded her, and time folded upon itself. This was her Elias, the emaciated child she'd pulled from the brink, now a titan of industry, returned to honor his roots. The bustling street fell into a hushed reverence, security personnel standing sentinel, bystanders frozen in awe as Elias gently clasped her hand, pressing it to his forehead in a gesture of profound respect. With a voice choked by emotion, he poured out his soul, "Everything I am, every triumph, every step forward, it's all because of you, Margaret. You didn't turn away when the world did. You gave me life when I had none left." The onlookers watched, transfixed, as he unveiled his plans, not just lavish gifts, but a legacy built in her name. He whisked her away to a sprawling, sun-drenched home overlooking serene gardens, ensuring she never lifted a finger in toil again. Medical care, travel, luxuries she'd only dreamed of, all hers. But the crown jewel was the foundation he established in her honor, a non-profit powerhouse dedicated to rescuing abandoned children, providing them with safe havens, nutritious meals, quality education, and the mentorship to dream big. It mirrored the compassion she'd bestowed upon him, scaling it to touch countless lives. The media frenzy was electric, front-page stories lauding Elias's humility, interviews dissecting his rags-to-riches saga with a fairy tale twist. Yet, for Elias, the real treasure was witnessing Margaret's worry-free days, her laughter ringing free, her eyes sparkling with contentment. In later years, when admirers probed the secrets behind his empire, Elias bypassed talks of algorithms or market strategies. Instead, he'd recount the tale of a starving boy on a forsaken sidewalk and the extraordinary woman who chose empathy over ease. "She rescued me from oblivion," he'd say, his voice steady with conviction. "My life's work is a tribute to that singular act of grace." If this riveting story of fate, fortitude, and full-circle gratitude has tugged at your heartstrings, lighting a fire within, then let's keep the momentum going. Smash that like button, share this gem with friends who need a dose of inspiration, subscribe to Midnight Tales for more captivating narratives that celebrate the human spirit, and drop a comment below. Your engagement fuels our mission to unearth and amplify these tales of transformation. And hey, before we wrap up, ponder this in the comments: if you held the power to alter someone's trajectory with one bold act of kindness, what would it be? Margaret and Elias's epic journey is a vivid reminder that a single compassionate choice can send ripples through time, forging futures beyond our wildest imaginings. Sometimes, the humblest gesture, like extending a hand to a child in need, blooms into an extraordinary miracle, proving that in the tapestry of life, threads of kindness weave the most enduring patterns.